Yo, hello, as I said earlier, we are going to be doing a little Slowbro solo raid on the 7-star Cinder. As I said in the last video, I did think this was the more optimal build, but what I had prepared was ultimately a Spothera, so we did decide to use a Spothera in that. I will say, as a little bit of another option for the Spothera set, if you did actually EV train it because of our last video, you can just use Shell Bell instead of lefties. It's better in general. I just was lazy and didn't put the leftovers on it. And then like another option for Slowbro we covered here as well was like slack off Nasty Pot, slack off, and I mean chilling water, or either spam chilling water. You still have Nasty Pot set up. You kind of win still. But this build is a build that's just designed for this Oko setup, where you either spam your Iron Defense, spam your Block over side terrain, and then stored power. There is some inconsistencies that you have to consider. Is if your partners do too much damage to Cinder and bring it to shield, then you'll have to like mess around a bit more. And to that end, like Expert Bell is a pretty good option, so you don't end up doing damage to yourself or some kind of other psychic boosting item. So you don't have to worry about like the extra damage of Life Orb coming in, getting in your way in that sense. Or just running like Slack Off and then you'll always win. But since I'm Tera type flying on Slowbro, and ultimately I just prefer going for Oko setups anyways, I am ultimately the Psychic Terrain, so that's what we chose to do. And then for the backup new build of the Spothera, you can go like Feather Dance Reflect, and then it'll just handle it a lot better. As you can just drop the defense, even if they go for the reset, you get a Reflect up, and then you'll be fine. So that's another idea you can do. And yeah, let's get right into it, you know? On the last video, I will say I did I always try to do like one 7-star Tera raid video where it's just a build I do very quickly. Like last week time around we did for Charizard, we just did a very quick Sylveon build. Very quick setup, and it worked pretty well. Even though I did make some mistakes on what could happen for like consistency, like it always should have been Convert Cloak, it always should have been Draining Kiss for backup set, always had like Tera Fairy and stuff like that. But overall, like, it's just a fun way to do this and a fun way to like experiment a little. I do wonder if you guys will end up liking like the having multiple videos on it where we do bit. That's how I can really get to like experiment, right? I do think that's what makes these like so fun, is like the variety of options that you have. Also, I will say the first acrobatics like always high rolls me. That was a very high roll. Very 252 defense. Yeah, you go 3 Iron Defense, 3 Nasty Pots. Set up side terrain. Hope your partners don't do too much damage to the Cinder. Yeah, there we go. I will say I think Slack Off is nice as well because it's reliable recovery and it makes this like way more consistent. And I was talking about how I do view this to be not as worth going for as some of the other ones. Just because of like Cinderace will activate shield at 75%. So if I were to build for this, I would actually kind of avoid going for the Oko and instead just go for like slack off recovery on Slowbro, because it just makes this a lot like more consistent that you'll just get all this off, right? Because like it's not very likely that you'll get like all this stuff going when your partners are likely going to proc shield because they're doing way too much damage. You can look at the Sylveon, he's just pounding him. It's almost at 75 already. So I'm not sure I'll actually get an Oko setup this game. Yeah, they're doing a lot, man. They're doing a lot. But yeah, we'll get the side terrain. If it goes on this turn still, if it stays up this turn, then we KO it. Hopefully it will. Yeah, okay, cool. So I sword power, and then we just KO. And yeah, that's a little nice little setup for Slowbro to just get through Cinder very quickly. Whew. I was a bit scared there though, because I'll say it, like that was a tad close to going to the shield. Because of course, with like the value of going one-shot builds, essentially, is just you avoid the shield. And this one's a bit scarier because like a lot more setup than like the Sylveon needed, for example, from the last Tera raid. But it's still just like reliable enough because like Slowbro is so bulky that you probably will win anyways, even if you don't have the full setup. But yeah, there's other options. You can go like slack off for the more reliability, especially if you have like Tera Psychic, and then go for the setup, and then like set up again after the shield, and then go for the debuffs. It all depends on whether you want to like worry about the shield. Like as the spot throw build, for example, I'll talk about it again. It's like it's as long as you get through like the shield, it'll get you to like the shield, but thanks to like Reflect and Feather Dance and like the spamming Lumina Crash and Lumina Crash Spadef drops, of course, go through shield, will ultimately finish the job regardless. And of course, you can run this with Slack Off instead if you expect to go to shield often, or if you're in like group raids. I will say one thing about group raids: they are probably going to bring you to shield, especially if it's random. So having Slack Off on it here is a pretty good option to like kind of prevent that a bit. And potentially in those kind of scenarios, I'll just go like a item like Expert Belt or like Shell Belt and just say, hey, yeah, I know I'm not going to get the Oko, so it's fine, guys, it's fine. Also, you don't need 252 defense. I just go it because I make dedicated builds for specific raid Pokemon, because honestly, that's just a fun way for me to play against like 7 stars, right? Because this like helps the options. Also, I will say this about the Esprothra from their last video as well. Shell Bell's better than Lefties. I just didn't have a Shell Bell in my box that I could remember, so I was like, okay, I'll just throw Lefties on it, and that's exactly what we did. And yeah, that's like the general idea for what I wanted to like kind of say in this video. If you want like more consistency, you go Slack Off. You want the Oko, you go like Side Terrain, and it's pretty good. Other notable things I want to talk about though is like some other group setups actually. Like if you have like qwilfish, for example, like a lot of the best mons for this raid are all stored power psychic type Pokemon. I did not mean to click that. Yeah, it's all like stored power psychic type Pokemon. So like if you have let's say Armorogue and you have it partnered with a qwilfish, you just have your qwilfish spam acupressure on Armorogue and then you get like stored power boost. And qwilfish also has the benefit of like acid spray, so it can help you get through setup like that, and it also has like intimidate. So I do think qwilfish is like the perfect Pokemon for like partner raids. You can even taunt the bulk up too. Like this is really helpful. It is very, very helpful in general. And yeah, there's Chilling Water as well. So this is like what I think is the best support Pokemon for this raid. And you just spam acupressure on like a stored power mon, whether that be in a Spothra, whether that be a Slowbro, an Armorogue, whatever. qwilfish is just a great enabler for those Pokemon. So if you have like friends that you can do this in a group with, I would actually recommend 100 times out of 10 just build up a qwilfish and just have them spam acupressure on your stored power mon. It'll make the setup like way faster, and it'll also just like it'll do pretty good. It'll do pretty good, you know. So you just get a group of like 3 qwilfish, 1 stored power user, and you'll be good for group raid. But unfortunately, since this isn't group, since I am not really doing group raids, we can't really go for like the full dedicated setup. But in general, this qwilfish plus stored power, big boobs, big games. And yeah, that's like another option. And I do think like Armorogue has decent like potential to solo as well, because like double resist, and that's like pretty good too. So yeah, those are like the kind of ideas I wanted to talk about in this little concept. Yeah, spamming Lumina Crash, this does get you to shield, so it's a bit slower. This one gets you to shield too, so it's a bit slower as well, but it is at least like notable, right? And you can also do adjusted like this, and let's go with a other build too, right? With like Iron Defense, Stored Power, Nasty Paw, Slack Off, and you just have a bulky Shell Bell as well instead of Life Orb. It'll just give you like extra consistency, which is really the move, especially if you have one that already has like Terra type Psychic, as you'll just consistently always win the raid. And sometimes that's more important than going for an Oko, so that's something I would consider as well. But yeah, there's a lot of decent options. I did want to at least like talk about acupressure stuff. I do think qwilfish, best support Pokemon, and yeah, that's really all I had to say for this video. I hope like this was like kind of useful. And we will be doing videos on like every 7-star Terra raid. I think like 7-star Terra raids are the most like, in general, fun video for me, because it's always like good content, I think. And there's always like a bit of experimentation. Like you saw at the front in our first video we did on it, we did ultimately win, but it was a bit of a challenge, right? It was a bit of a challenge. And this one we just get an Oko setup, right? And that's what makes this kind of interesting. But yeah, we didn't show it in the last video, so I'll show it here as well. The Cinderace is ultimately Adamant 6 IV and has High Jump Kick, Pyro Bolt, Acrobatics, and Iron Head. And the ability Libero Which the reason you weren't able to see like Libero in the combat is Libero does not proc with terrestrialization. You'll always be the type that you terrestrialize. So that fighting Cinder didn't change to like steal Cinder randomly. Which thank God it doesn't, because that would be such a nightmare to actually go against. Like imagine if you have this whole psychic setup, but then the Cinder, this Libero changes to Iron Head, and you're like, oh, that doesn't work. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to like kind of talk about for this. And yeah, later.